Most people think discipline is all about waking up at 5 a.m., grinding through unpleasant tasks, and pushing yourself with brute force. But what if I told you that real discipline doesn't feel hard at all? In fact, for the most successful people, discipline feels almost effortless. We've been taught that achieving anything meaningful requires battling your own desires and staying motivated every day. But that belief is flawed, and it's holding many of us back. For years, I thought I just didn't have what it took to be disciplined. I'd get excited about a new goal, whether it was exercising regularly, getting more work done, or learning a new skill. But after a few days or weeks, that excitement would fade. I'd slip back into old habits, beat myself up for not being consistent, and promise that next time would be different. You might know the feeling. The meditation streak that lasted only 3 days, the gym plan that fell apart by Thursday, or the journaling habit that produced a grand total of 4 entries before vanishing. The truth is, my whole approach to discipline was broken. I was trying to force change through willpower alone. That was my first mistake. See, willpower works a bit like a battery. It drains with use. And the more you rely on it to make every decision, the faster it burns out. That's why motivation feels strong in the beginning, but fizzles out right when you need it most. What finally changed everything for me wasn't more motivation. It was a mindset shift. I stopped fighting my nature and started designing around it. Instead of trying to be someone with better self-control, I began creating environments where making the right decision became the easiest decision. That tiny shift completely transformed how I saw discipline. Think about it. Discipline isn't a character trait you either have or don't. It's not about being tougher or more determined. It's about making good choices the path of least resistance. People who seem incredibly disciplined often aren't forcing themselves every day. They've just built systems and surroundings that support their goals automatically. I learned that the key isn't to depend on willpower. It's to design your environment so well that your desired actions feel natural. When your surroundings support you instead of challenge you, discipline becomes your default, not your struggle. In the next section, I'll walk you through the exact technique that tripled my productivity every morning without requiring any extra effort. But before that, I'd love to hear from you. Where does discipline feel the hardest for you right now? Is it with fitness, focus, eating well, or something else entirely? Let me know in the comments. Your answer might help shape what I explore next. Everything shifted for me when I realized I didn't need more motivation. I needed a better system. Up until that point, I thought successful people were just wired differently. I assumed they had some bottomless well of willpower that I lacked. So I tried to mimic what I thought discipline looked like, downloading the latest productivity apps, buying fancy planners, setting ambitious goals. But a few days in, I was already slipping. Again. It was frustrating. I kept blaming myself. Maybe I wasn't motivated enough. Maybe I didn't want success badly enough. Maybe I was just lazy. But here's what I didn't understand. Your environment shapes your behavior far more than your intentions do. Behavioral psychology confirms this. Studies show that willpower isn't something you can count on endlessly. It gets depleted just like your phone battery. That's why relying on it to power your entire day is a recipe for failure. The real secret? Structuring your surroundings so that the right choices are easier than the wrong ones. This is what behavior designers call reducing friction. And once I understood that, everything changed. I stopped trying to become a more disciplined person and started identifying as someone who designs for discipline. That mental shift from force to design was massive. For example, instead of telling myself to just focus more, I blocked social media on my computer and left my phone in another room. Instead of trying to feel like working out, I set my workout clothes by the door and committed to just putting on my shoes each morning. These tweaks didn't seem like much, but over time, they stacked up. The right actions became easier than avoiding them. Eventually, these tiny environmental upgrades created a kind of invisible momentum. I didn't need to psych myself up to write. I just sat down in a distraction-free space. I didn't have to wrestle with guilt over skipping the gym. I had a routine that made it automatic. It started to feel like discipline was something I had, even though I wasn't trying any harder than before. This is the real magic of designing systems. They take the pressure off your brain. You stop wasting energy debating what to do next and just follow the path you've already paved. Your habits stop feeling like chores and start feeling like the most natural part of your day. Now here's where it gets even more interesting. In a moment, I'll share a 30-second evening routine that makes following through on your most important task way easier, even when you wake up completely unmotivated. But first, there's a crucial mindset shift you need to hear. This one idea flipped my entire understanding of discipline upside down, and it might just do the same for you. Most of us grow up believing that we have to feel motivated before we can act motivated. We wait for the perfect spark, the right energy, the right mood, the right moment. But neuroscience tells a very different story. In reality, action comes first, and motivation follows. That's right. It's not that motivated people act. It's that people who act become motivated. Once I understood this, I began to change how I responded to moments of hesitation. Before, when I didn't feel like working or exercising, I'd tell myself, I'll do it later when I'm more in the mood. Now I have a simple mantra. I don't need to feel like it to do it. Then I take one tiny step forward, just one. Sometimes that's opening my laptop, sometimes it's tying my shoes. That small action is enough to kickstart momentum. Every time you act without waiting for motivation, you rewire your brain. You create a pattern that says, this is just what I do. Over time, those patterns become habits. And habits don't require motivation, they run automatically. That's why disciplined people seem so consistent. It's not because they have stronger willpower, it's because their habits are doing the heavy lifting. This is backed by research on habit formation. When a behavior becomes automatic, it shifts from the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that handles decisions and effort, to the basal ganglia, which controls routine behaviors. The result? Way less mental strain. Your brain treats those actions like brushing your teeth or locking the door, effortless, routine, and reliable. In fact, studies show that nearly 43% of our daily actions are habits, not conscious decisions. So, if you want to be more disciplined, don't focus on forcing more willpower. Focus on building routines that work on autopilot. One of the most powerful ways to do this is with a strategy called habit stacking. Here's how it works. You take a habit you already have, like making coffee or brushing your teeth, and attach a new habit right after it. That anchor makes the new behavior easier to remember and repeat. Instead of starting from scratch, you're building onto something that already exists. Let's say you want to start journaling. Rather than hope you remember to do it at some random point in the day, link it to your morning coffee. After I pour my coffee, I'll write one sentence in my journal. It sounds simple, but over time, that routine becomes rock solid. What's fascinating is that this kind of structure doesn't just help you do more, it changes how you feel about what you do. You stop seeing discipline as a battle and start experiencing a deep sense of ease. Your habits carry you forward without the usual friction. You're not forcing yourself. You're simply flowing with the systems you've created. The real magic happens when you realize that these systems can carry you even when life gets messy. I experienced this firsthand during one of the most stressful moments of my life. I was halfway through a critical project when a family emergency completely upended my routine. My sleep suffered, my focus disappeared, and honestly, I just wanted to quit everything and disappear for a while. In the past, I would have taken that as a sign to stop. My inner voice would say, "You can always start again later," or "It's okay to take a break right now." And while that mindset may sound compassionate, it used to derail me for weeks or months. This time, something different happened. My systems didn't vanish when things got tough. They carried me. Now, don't get me wrong, my output dropped. I wasn't at my best. But I didn't spiral. I didn't completely stop. Because the structure I had built didn't depend on me feeling 100%. I had already made the important decisions in advance. My morning routine didn't need motivation. It was muscle memory. My environment still blocked distractions. My accountability partner still checked in. Even in crisis, I kept showing up. Not perfectly, but consistently. And when the storm passed, I hadn't lost momentum. I hadn't slipped into that exhausting cycle of starting over. That was the moment I realized discipline isn't proven when things are going well. It's proven when everything inside you wants to quit, and you keep going anyway. Not by pushing harder, but because you've built a system that's stronger than your emotions. This is what real, resilient discipline looks like. It bends, but it doesn't break. It adapts to your energy, your stress, your humanity. It gives you grace without letting you drift. And when you build discipline this way, it stops feeling like a daily struggle. It starts feeling like a sustainable rhythm. That's why I say discipline is never about being perfect. It's about being prepared. Your job isn't to perform flawlessly. Your job is to build systems that work, even when you don't feel like it. So, if you've ever had a moment when discipline suddenly felt natural, when you found yourself doing something that used to require all your willpower, I'd love to hear about it. Share your story in the comments. That experience might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. Here's the part most people miss. The freedom you're looking for doesn't come from grinding harder. It comes from letting go of the idea that you need to force yourself to be disciplined every day. True freedom is when your systems handle the hard part for you. When your life is set up in a way that makes the right thing the easy thing. That's why I don't rely on motivation anymore. I rely on design. I don't wait for the perfect mood or the ideal conditions. I build routines that guide me through the day, even when I'm tired, overwhelmed, or tempted to drift. And the paradox is that this gentler approach has made me far more productive than any of my hardcore discipline phases ever did. Now, that doesn't mean life is always smooth. Of course, there are still days when I mess up, fall behind, or feel stuck. But the difference is, those days don't derail me anymore. Because I've designed for failure, I've built in recovery points. My systems include rest, reset, and reflection, not just endless hustle. This is the foundation of resilient discipline, a kind of inner structure that adapts to your limits instead of breaking under pressure. It's not about perfect performance. It's about consistent action that can bend with you through stress, fatigue, and unexpected chaos. That's what allows you to keep going when everything else says stop. If there's one message I want you to take away, it's this. The disciplined version of you already exists. They're not buried under laziness or lack of motivation. They're just waiting for a different strategy, one that works with your nature, not against it. So, what's the next step? Start by shifting your mindset from willpower to design. Identify one area of your life where you've been relying too much on motivation. Then ask yourself, how can I make the right action easier to take? What can I change in my environment to reduce friction? Maybe it's laying out your clothes the night before. Maybe it's deleting the apps that always pull you off track. Maybe it's making your workspace distraction-free. Small changes compound. And the more systems you stack in your favor, the less effort you need to stay consistent. This transformation doesn't happen overnight, but it does happen through small, intentional choices made daily. 1 year from now, your future self will thank you for starting today. So, keep going. The life you want is closer than you think. If you're ready to keep building that momentum, check out the next video in this series. And remember, discipline isn't about becoming someone you're not. It's about designing a life where being your best self becomes automatic.